500.
Checked.
400. 300. 200. 100. 50. 40.
Instant 75-62, poursuivez l'approche. Poursuivez l'approche, vent 270 degrés.
That was bang, bang. Go around. Bang, bang. Positive climb, gear up. Ajaccio approach, Corsica 9 Romeo going around. So we have to turn.
Corsica 9 Romeo, Roger, climb 3000 feet, turn left heading 270.
Flaps.
Corsica 320, tournez à gauche, cap 140.
Corsica 320,
Autopilot 1. Lever climb
75-62, autorisé atterrissage piste 02, vent 270 degrés, 30 nœuds. Vous l'aurez compris, il n'y a pas les minima et vous n'avez pas du tout les conditions pour atterrir sur Ajaccio.
Ajaccio approach, Corsica 9 Romeo, we are climbing 3000 feet and flying, heading 270.
Corsica 9 Romeo, your attention.
Ajaccio approach, Corsica 9 Romeo.
2,500. 2,500. 2,000. 1,000.
terrain, 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 terrain.
Clear of the terrain.
Corsica 9 Romeo, turn left, heading 230.
Turning left, heading 230, Corsica 9 Romeo. Ajaccio approach, we just had to do a terrain avoidance manoeuvre, Corsica 9 Romeo.
Hello everyone, welcome back to a Worms flight. On an IFR night flight into Ajaccio, Corsica, I experienced a rejected landing followed immediately by a terrain escape maneuver. In this video, I want to focus on terrain monitoring and terrain avoidance. Let's go back to the situation shortly before the incident and look at the terrain on the navigation display. The terrain on ND function provides a topographical map of the area within the selected range. In a nutshell, green means safe, yellow and orange mean caution, and red means immediate danger. It is based on the aircraft's position and the terrain database. If the position accuracy is low, this feature becomes useless and is turned off automatically. If the terrain database is inaccurate, the image becomes misleading. In the bottom right corner of the ND, two numbers are displayed. The upper number indicates the highest terrain elevation in the area, 4,200 feet in this case. The lower number indicates the lowest elevation, 800 feet in this case. Our altitude at that moment is 3,000 feet. Can we identify the threat from the terrain on ND? No, not yet. Flying a heading of 270 at 3,000 feet looks safe, as the terrain ahead of us is green and the peak elevation is to the right of the flight path at a distance of almost 15 nautical miles. The next thing that happened was the 1,000-foot call-out from the radio altimeter. Apart from final approach and initial climb, I never want to fly below 1,000 feet AGL on an IFR flight. The GPWS terrain pull-up warning is triggered by the radio altimeter and by the rate at which the radio altitude is decreasing. If the terrain pull-up warning is activated, there is no time for discussion. Thrust toga and full backstick must be applied immediately. I want to emphasize the importance of selecting an appropriate ND range. It gives you more accurate information and therefore supports better decision making. Once the crew notices terrain of 2,700 feet on the ND while level at 3,000 feet, they immediately decide to climb and reject the clearance. Ajaccio approach, Corsica 3 Whiskey. Unable 3,000 feet due to rain. Climbing 7,000 feet. Request revised clearance. When ATC issues vectors, they do not rely on the MSA or the MORA that flight crews read from the charts. Instead, they rely on minimum vectoring altitudes, which can be lower than the MSA or the MORA. The minimum vectoring altitude is not directly available to the flight crew. As a consequence, we have to assess whether a vector is safe by using our own tools such as terrain on ND and the navigation charts. Let's look at the robust 3 Sierra arrival chart and see what helpful information it provides. After climbing out of Napoleon Bonaparte Airport and turning to heading 270, we were heading towards an area marked with terrain elevations up to 4,000 feet. Would you have remembered that from your pre-flight briefing? Let's have a look at the minimum vectoring altitudes for Ajaccio issued by the French division of IVAO. The MVA is 6,000 feet around the airport. In the neighboring sector to the west, it is 4,000 feet. Climbing to 3,000 feet is only applicable on the published missed approach track of 242 degrees. The controller was probably intending to issue a second left turn afterwards, but got distracted. A published IFR route will keep you out of trouble with terrain. That is exactly what it is designed to do. On a published route, monitoring the aircraft's flight path largely boils down to checking that the navigation accuracy is sufficient and that you are flying the route you are cleared for. From my personal experience as a flight simmer, I would say that my mindset can become somewhat narrow and one-dimensional when I do this repeatedly. Whenever you are flying on radar vectors, monitoring the aircraft's flight path becomes a different game for a number of reasons. The controller makes a silly mistake. The controller does not have your correct position or speed vector. You misunderstand the instruction. The controller and the flight crew may have different ideas about what is safe. And probably more. The job of ATC is to keep aircraft from hitting each other, not to be a navigator. Whenever flying on vectors, continue to navigate and be aware that threats can be everywhere. Challenge ATC when you're not comfortable with their instruction. If a threat is imminent, fly away from it immediately, then advise ATC. Thanks for watching the video. If you found it helpful, please like and subscribe to Worms Flight. See you next time.